My name is Durkan, and I am an artist. I use metalsmithing and different blacksmithing techniques to complete my process. My current body of work combines the ideas of high fashion with metalsmithing. So I've come up with my own high fashion couture. I started this body of work around 2008, not knowing where it would go or how crazy it would get. This is the first drawing I did that started my series. I titled it Blindheaded. All of my drawings are around 8 foot tall, so you have to keep that in mind. I enjoy working large scale because I like the physicality of using my whole body to do the drawing, not just my hands. After I titled everything Blindheaded, which was a word I made up when I was about 5, I told my granddad I knew what God looked like, and he said, "What does God look like, Ellen?" And I go, "God, he's blindheaded, bald, and smokes cigarettes." So when I was 5, I thought my granddad was God, but I was a weird kid. But as an adult, the word came back to me, and it was in the back of my mind during this whole series of work, which ended up leading to this whole high fashion couture. My drawing started to develop very figurative aspects in this piece, and it's in graphite and ink. And you can see like the figure is still very hidden and bound up and contained. But at the same time, my drawings are very closed off and secluded. My sculptures are becoming very open. This is an earlier piece I did in steel, and the shoes are wood, and it's all forged. I had no metalsmithing or blacksmithing techniques at this point. So I had all kinds of structural problems, and things fell over a lot. She looks really graceful, but this piece almost took out a few people in this process. But it was just me and the metal, and I just heated it up and just smashed at it until it did what I wanted, which is kind of good in life, but kind of bad too. So this piece came apart in 2 pieces, and it was important for me for these pieces to be fully wearable. And I wanted the figure to be nude because when you're nude, you have a natural vulnerability. My drawings and my sculptures take place at the same time, so they influence each other, and I see them more as large-scale sketches than just a blueprint for what I'm actually creating. So once again, you can see I'm dealing with different figurative aspects in this drawing, but at the same time, I'm dealing with a lot of different textures. This is probably one of my 3rd or 4th dresses. This comes apart in 2 pieces. It unhooks down the back and unhooks down the front. So when the woman gets in it, she has to balance on the shoes, and people come in from the sides and kind of encase her in it. I started to look at Victorian undergarments and corsets and different bodywear that shapes your form and kind of controls your movement or lack of movement. But at the same time, these pieces make you very vulnerable, but the person wearing them, you have control and a sort of power at the same time. You are relying on other people to get you in and out of these pieces. It's a graphite drawing. You can see how the figure is getting a little more revealed. I'm dealing with a lot of different high fashion techniques, like the big shoulders, like Alexander McQueen, and a lot of different designers. I didn't really have much interest in sewing like normal clothes. I kind of just wanted to make big, crazy things, so I started to try and make a corset out of material, and I was like, no, we're going to go back to the metal. This works better. So, and my shoes. All my outfits need shoes, because every outfit needs shoes. So, this was the first piece I constructed in copper. I learned that copper does not move the same way that steel does, so you can't beat it the same way. It doesn't take the same stress that steel will take. So this was a big learning curve. I would suggest if you're going to work at a new medium, I would suggest something smaller. I started off with these earpieces, and then I was like, well, the earpieces need a neck piece, and the neck piece needs a dress, and the dress needs some shoes, and the shoes needs a stand, so one thing led to another. And all the lacing on here is brass, and on the shoes, too. This was a drawing I was working on the same time I was completing the copper dress I just showed you. You can see how the earpieces in the drawing have translated into, translated sculpturally. My drawings, like this one, you can see the influence in the shoes. I was working on the shoes, so they both take from each other, and when I'm drawing, I'm also drawing it as I would design my metalwork or build it. But a lot of my pieces, a lot of my drawings end up missing appendages. That's not something like I intentionally did while I was drawing them. It was more like of an aesthetic decision, or if you want to psychoevaluate that, then be my guest. This piece is about 7 feet tall, and my model was about 5'11", so I built it for her. So even on a good day, I'm not anywhere near 5'11". No matter how much yoga I do, it's still not going to happen. So the shoes are 2 foot tall cast iron, and they're about 40 pounds, so you're not going anywhere very quickly. Not very fast. So this piece comes apart in 2 pieces, and this was one of the larger dresses I've made, and I decided to put like the tallest woman I could find in the dress, which I had at an opening. I had all nude women in the dresses, and everything was going great until she passed out. So luckily, there was a couple people that were like with it, and someone grabbed her head to stop her from being impaled on her spikes. But it was a delayed reaction because it was an art show, so people were like, maybe this is supposed to happen. And then they were like, no, the artist is pulling a naked lady out of the dress really quickly, so maybe not. So either way, it kind of worked out well. It was nice and dramatic. So after that, I titled the dress Death Dress. So some of the dresses get a little more natural titles, and some of them get titles afterwards. And I'm like, yeah, because that's what I refer to it as, the death dress. So here's another drawing I'm working on, and you can see my figurative elements are becoming more apparent. And also my detail work is coming together. And a lot of my earlier drawings, they're very open. And right now, I've really honed in on different types of lace and detail work, and I'm really focusing on like a lot of little carpal tunnel action. You can't see it, but all of the little shading is all tiny, tiny little circles. So keep that in mind. Here's a close-up of the shoes. The copper shoes are carved wood, and all the lacing mechanisms on the side are all brass. And I designed the hinges on the one side to look like lace, so it unhooks. And those were the first pair of shoes that I made that were actually wearable, not to be confused with practical. But they were wearable, and you could walk around in them. So that gave me the idea that I wanted to complete a whole body of work that was, in theory, fully functional down like a runway show. On the other hand, I have these cast iron shoes that are about 40 pounds a piece, totally not wearable. And they were the first pair that I ever did in cast iron. So once again, I didn't know the medium. I just cast them. I was like, great, I got these shoes. And I'm like, these are never going to stand because they're 2 foot tall and really skinny. So I had to build this contraption around them to make them actually stand. So my point is that everything doesn't have to be figured out from the beginning. Sometimes it is a little better to jump and then sink and then kind of figure it out. Maybe that's just my method, but this is a graphite drawing, and this is when I really started to think about accessories and accessorizing my Iron Maidens. So I'm still dealing with lace, and I got this idea that I wanted to build these lacy handcuffs. And this is all pierced and hand-cut steel. So if any of you have done any jewelry work or piercing, it involves drilling lots of tiny holes and then going in with a tiny saw and sawing it all out. And it's got a 2-part hinge in the back that slides out so you can get your hand in there naturally. And I designed it off of Victorian lace and how it hangs over your hand. So after I built this one, I was like, no, this isn't big enough. So that's me looking really happy sawing out this larger piece. Spent a lot of time being stabbed in the neck and breaking saw blades. And here's the finished product. And after this one, I hadn't had enough of sawing and throwing saw blades and frames and everything. So I started to build another drawing, and I wanted this drawing to really be focused on a corset. So in this drawing, you can see how my metal is tightened up and everything, and it's come together. So here's a corset. It opens from the front and latches down the back. It's made up of 6 panels that are all hand-cut, forged, and riveted together. And after I built this one, I was like, well, it's lonely, so it needs a top half. So I was like, no, we're not done yet. So I got in and I built her a collar and adjustable breast pieces that hinge on the rivet. And I'm working towards building an entire body of work so I can have my own fully functional, high-fashion runway show. Come on. Thank you, everybody.
Ellen, Durkan, Catherine Nunmaker, Rewired. I buy it. Huh?